Gentlemen, which brings me to my next point. Don't smoke crack.
Those words, of course, are by the famous Lawrence Taylor. And this is Tim, formerly of Online Big Blue. Of course, I'll always be Online Big Blue, bringing you a new podcast. It's 3-12-1. It's a 2022 New York Giants season. And I have a co-host. I have a partner in crime. I have a gentleman that some people know and probably know well. It's going to be the world famous OGR Sports, making his triumphant comeback. Now, Mr. OGR, I have a question for you. There was a lot of rumors and speculation why you disappeared. I heard it was because you shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. Of course, that might have been a Johnny Cash song. I'm not sure. Mr. OGR, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Tim. Now, this is a Batman Robin dynamic that nobody ever thought was going to happen. Okay, it's like Alistair Overeem getting knocked out by Francis Ngannou, which is one of the hardest hits I've ever seen.
Well, you're dropping some knowledge that people are like, what? What? That is a reference and a half.
Yes, there you go.
So, Mr. OGR, of course, you know it's you stepped away for a little bit from doing your daily channel or weekly channel on YouTube, and you've graciously decided to come back and hang out with me for about an hour every week. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's my melodious voice. But of course, we want to sit here and we want to talk about Giants. We want to talk about everything New York. We want to talk about this entire podcast is dedicated to the 2022 Giants season, which is also why it's referred to as 3-12-1, because everyone knows 3-12-1 was 1983, Bill Parcells' first season where he almost got fired, which in some regards is the worst season in Giants history. And Mr. OGR, I want to talk about the state of the current Giants team. I want to talk about where they're at now. Are we going to be 3-12-1, or are we going to be, I should say, 3-13-1? Is this the right direction we're going with Deshane? Is this the right direction for the Dable? We are sitting here in the middle of April. The draft's only a week and a half away. What is your thought process? What does your expertise tell you about where the Giants sit right now, the way they are constructed?
Here's my thing with the Giants. I don't trust John Mara. I don't. And I don't mean to just lead off with that. But a large part, Giants want to sit there and say, oh, it was Dave Gettleman. Oh, it was Joe Judge. And yeah, sure, these guys had a hand in where the Giants are right now and the lack of, let's say, Swiss cheese around around the team. But they did have a hand in it, but it's John Mara. Over the last 10 years, the only constant has been John Mara, Steve Tisch, and Chris Mara. And I love the hiring of Brian Dable. I love to see Joe Shane. But the thing I have to question is, how much control does Chris Mara, Kevin Abrams, and John Mara have in this team? And that's my biggest question. And that's my, throwing it back to you. How do you feel about that conglomerate and how much control they still have?
I hate the conglomerate. I hate the word conglomerate because sometimes I mispronounce it. I have a feeling that, it's interesting because everyone sits there and goes, how much power does the Shane really have? I think he must have some because he hired Brian Dable. If I think if Mara and Abrams and the other Mara had more control, they may have gone with a more seasoned head coach. Now, I personally said this a million times. I'm not a huge fan of the Dable hire because I wanted someone with experience, because we've hired how many coaches in a row now with zero experience, and I don't think it's really worked out too well. I mean, I don't know. There's some guy that's, I think it was a track coach that we just had for 2 years. So, I mean, I just feel that it's just reaches a point where you got to have some kind of consistency. And I think that's what they're trying to build up. So in the end, it's the Mara team. It's Mara's team. So he's going to do whatever the hell he wants.
And that's great that he wants to do everything. That's great that all he wants to do is just run things, but you just can't run with an iron fist. To me, I want an owner that's smart, knows when to walk away, knows when to hold them,
knows when to fold them, knows when to walk away, knows where to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table, because you want to know why. There's time enough for counting when the dealing's done. Sorry.
I love that. No, it's great. It's great. Who doesn't love a Cards reference? But anyways, that's what I want to see. I want an owner that knows that. And John Mara doesn't know that. He doesn't know that at all. He stays with something too long. He doesn't, pull the trigger as soon as he should. That's what I want. And I want him to stay out of the way. You hire these guys underneath you. These are football lifers. Yes, you've been a part of the Giants, but you do not have the football knowledge Brian Dable does. You do not have the football knowledge that Joe Shane does. I don't care that you own a team. You're not. You're not them. So allow them to do their job. And right now, I'm happy the way things are going, but I'm tentative.
Do you think that Mara has this? He always seems that he wants to be the smartest guy in the room. He always seems like he wants to be Jerry Jones. And he's do you think he has the Jerry Jones syndrome where he thinks that he can run the franchise better than the people that he hires and that he picks?
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
Okay.
I absolutely do.
So John Mara won't be coming on the show.
No, I do think that because you look at the track record with Dave Gettleman. I didn't mind the Dave Gettleman hire, but I don't think everything we saw was a Dave Gettleman decision.
Oh, I agree.
And far too much blame goes on Dave Gettleman because he was basically the punching bag for John Mara, deflected the blame from him, which I thought the media and the rest of the Giants world out there should have been on the owner's ASS. When you have when you've been this bad for 10 years, you can't just say, oh, it's a GM. Because the same thing happened under the same GMs. We're resetting because why? We exploded the cap. We have no cap. We have no team. Now, we can barely get under the Rule 51.
Most people forget when Gettleman came in, he had to clean up the mess of Jerry Reese. Now, he did create some of that mess on his own with the Odell Beckham contract, but he still had the salary cap issue that first year. But I don't think he ever got the benefit of the doubt that Shane is getting right now. And I've said this before. Everyone right now, including myself, loves Shane because of the fact that he's honest. He basically tells you we're going to suck. He basically tells you we're in cap purgatory. He doesn't lie about it. But people will point out in Buffalo, he fixed the cap. People forget in Buffalo, they went 9-7 the year prior before he came there. They made the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor. They went 6-10 the next year with a rookie quarterback in Josh Allen. And they only had one, and I think they were only like $40 million over the cap. So they missed the playoffs 1 year under a rookie quarterback under Josh Allen. So the Shane never has really taken a team that has been so mismanaged cap-wise. And fixed and really fixed it itself. I always say in Buffalo got fixed because of Josh Allen.
I agree with 100%. And that brings me to the next point. Don't smoke crack. No, just joking. Malik Willis. Let's talk about it.
Malik Willis. I always have to transfer the sound effects from online Big Blue Sports because I'm going to promote that channel as well. Yes, he's a wonderful quarterback.
He is a wonderful quarterback. And I think he should be taken at 5 if he's there, and the Detroit Lions have not taken him.
Okay. I agree with that 110. Everyone that knows, either one of us knows that we are huge Malik Willis fans. Now, I got a question about Malik. An NFL scout came out today, or actually it was Saturday, which was a couple days ago. I don't know what day it is, and said that he would not select Malik Willis in the first round, that he may not even select him until like the 3rd or 4th round because he doesn't see the talent. He doesn't understand the hoopla, the hype. Is this guy just smoking? Is he LT in it? I should say, is he 80s LT in it and smoking crack? Because I see the talent. I see the fire.
Bobby Boucher could hit hard, but that's all he had. Okay? That scout has no brains. I'm sorry. And you know what? A lot of times we talk about how teams put out negative press on somebody or allow it to leak. Like the whole thing with Kayvon Thibodeau. I think that's all them trying to play it down because there's a team in the top 5 that really likes him.
Right.
And wants to make sure he's there. So they're trying to muddy up the waters. And that's what that scout's trying to do. Malik is far and away the best quarterback in this class. And if anybody's going to argue with you, well, then you're smoking crack. Seriously. You are. Because you're not paying attention to what could be. I love Malik because he's faced so much adversity in college. Right. Playing at Liberty, going through what he went through at Auburn, where you knew Bo Nix was just going to be the quarterback, right? Because of his father. And, going through all that and then watching his develop from a sophomore to to his junior to his senior season. Even though he had a better year as a junior, you saw the strides in his senior season. And if it wasn't for Malik and being able to allow the team around him, basically make the team play better than what it was capable of.
Right.
And that's what I love Malik. And I love quarterbacks that face adversity in college. I really, really do. Because that's where these quarterbacks, those are the quarterbacks that shine in the NFL. And I like to go back to Drew Brees. You go back, you look at what he did at Purdue. Purdue is not a powerhouse program. He brought them the prominence in the Big Ten, got a shot in the NFL. You had the shoulder issue. Everybody said, oh, he's done. He goes to the right team with the right system with Sean Payton, and he has a Hall of Fame career. And there's nothing special about Drew Brees, except he's really accurate with the football, has an excellent brain. He has no arm, and yet had a Hall of Fame career.
Like he's got a better arm than Scott Fromm or Jake Fromm. Maybe Scott Fromm has a better arm. I don't know.
And he probably has a better arm than Chad Pennington, but still.
Well, Chad Pennington, yeah, that's not saying much. I think I got a better arm than Chad Pennington. But to your point, what do you feel is then the right situation for Malik to go into? Like what? I mean, people have asked me before. You love Malik Willis, and I say yes. And they said, is the Giants the right situation, the right fit to cultivate his talent? Because I've said before, he's got to sit a year. I don't want him in there maybe till like week 12 or 13. Let him watch. But what is the right situation? If you had to, now, I know you want him just as much as I want him. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Where do you feel, though, it doesn't have to be the Giants, would be the perfect fit team-wise right now for Malik? It doesn't have to be in the top 10 of the draft, just the perfect fit for Malik.
Perfect fit for Malik is where he can stay behind somebody, a veteran QB, a year, and pull the Patrick Mahomes. Okay? Because if you look at the two best quarterbacks in the NFL, right now it's Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
1A, 1B. Texas Tech, Wyoming. Patrick Mahomes sat for a year behind Alex Smith, a guy that they were already a playoff team. He walked into the perfect, situation. And I think the Giants are a perfect home for Malik. You have Tyrod Taylor. You're not going to keep Daniel if you're going to draft Malik and let him go. And if you look at the Giants, they're set up perfectly. You've got Mike Kafka, you've got Brian Dable, you've got Joe Shane. All of these guys dealt with young QBs.
I want to ask. I don't want to stop your point, but I want to ask you about that, and because I don't want to forget this. Brian Dable did not have a career really. He got fired twice, even once by his mentor Andy Reid, until he had Josh Allen. Mike Kafka, who's 33 years old. Or 36, I can't remember. He has done really nothing. He's never been. He was given the title of offensive passing coordinator last year. He's really done nothing in the league outside of hold the clipboard for Patrick Mahomes. Now you've said it, and I agree. I think those are 1A and 1B in reference to the top quarterbacks in this league, and I'd put Aaron Rodgers, second behind them. How much really can these guys accomplish and do for Malik? If you have a talent such as that, like I said, I think I could coach Patrick Mahomes right now. I think I could coach Josh Allen. I can look at Patrick Mahomes and say, run around, throw the ball sidearm, and throw it 40 yards for a touchdown. Oh, look at he did it! I'm a genius. So, what do you think? To me, their careers were made by quarterbacks that were drafted who have immense talent. And I don't think they cultivated him as much. I don't think Kafka cultivated Patrick Mahomes because of the fact that Eric Bieniemy is there in KC, who was technically the offensive, not really coordinator for the first 2 years there, because what he did is he installed the game plan, and then Andy Reid called the plays. He didn't start calling plays till 2 years ago, Bieniemy. So if anything, I think more of the success for Patrick Mahomes goes to Bieniemy. Not to Kafka. So can we really turn over Malik Willis to two guys whose careers were made off potential Hall of Fame quarterbacks?
You know what? You can and you can't. Okay. I think Brian Dable had a big part in Josh Allen's maturation. I just do. I believe that you have to maturate quarterbacks properly. The biggest example I have to that is David Carr and what happened with the Texans. And to me, That kid had all the potential in the world.
Oh, yeah. Until he got sacked 947 times.
Exactly. And his career was ruined because he went to the wrong situation. And I believe, and maybe not so much in Mike Kafka, but I believe that Shane and Dable have a lot of faith in Mike Kafka because you're willing to basically take, you're taking this guy from the Kansas City system. Are you just basing it because he worked with Eric Bieniemy? And I can't think of the first.
Andy Reid?
Yeah. So are you just basing it off of that? I don't think so. He's had to show something. You know what I'm saying? Now, I know you're saying he's a baby as far as being raised in the league, basically. So I get what you're saying, but sometimes you have to take a leap of faith because as Giants fans, that's all we have is a leap of faith.
Now, do you think he is going to be like a Bieniemy? He is going to install the offensive game plan and Dable's going to call the plays?
I absolutely 100% think that's going to be. They're just going to baby step it like they did for Eric Bieniemy.
Okay, that's what I think because I can't see them turning. The guy's been in the league for 5 years. He was a graduate assistant for a season. I was a graduate assistant for a season. That doesn't mean anything. I was good at getting coffee. You should have seen me. Bad knees and all. I was good at getting coffee. But it doesn't mean anything.
Did you have to buy it or was it on demand?
Well, the good news is this was back in the 90s. I had to go and run and make the coffee.
Oh,
yeah. I had to put the filter in, 5 scoops of the Grimes, and then fill it up above the 10. I still remember that because if you did it the wrong way, it burned, and certain coaches just didn't like their coffee burnt. And I didn't feel like running back and making freaking coffee again. Because
you know what you probably need a sound effect with that, coach. To be honest,
I do need a coffee. I do need a coffee sound effect because it's the best part of waking up. Now,
in your cup.
I feel that Malik Willis. I want him to come to the Giants so badly. They mostly come at night. Mostly. So badly, I want him to come to the Giants. But, my opinion, Atlanta, the Falcons, is the best fit for Malik. Because of the fact that you're running indoors. You're running on a fast track. Yeah, I know that Riley got suspended, but you still got Pitts and a cast of others. They just signed Marcus Mariota to a 2-year contract, so he could sit for that time. And they're used to having a quarterback similar to the skill sets of Malik and Michael Vick. So I just kind of have a feeling that he would, if you want to put him in a situation, I don't want him to go to Carolina because I think you got the Macadoodoo sitting over there, and I don't want the doo-doos screwing up Malik. Even though he wanted Patrick Mahomes, I know he wanted Patrick Mahomes. I know where you're going with that one.
No, I just don't want him going to a team where he's going to start right away. And I think Detroit, another indoor stadium, behind Jared Goff, a guy that's, a journeyman in the league. I think the Giants with Tyrod Taylor is another good fit. Even though it's still outdoors, you're going to be sitting for a year. Anywhere where he can comfortably sit for a year, because I'm not a big guy you got to start him right away because that's what the NFL does. That's a popular thing to do. No, I don't believe it. I don't believe that at all.
Well, back in the day, man, back in the 80s and 70s, 80s and 90s, some of these guys sat for years.
Phil Simms.
Phil Simms started day one. He started his first season in 79 and he played till 82 and 83 when he got hurt. He tore his knee in preseason in 82, and then he banged his helmet. He got benched for Bruner, lost it, and that's why that's why we're 3-12-1. Good segue. Because the Parcells listened to other people, and they started Scott Bruner over Phil Simms, and then when Phil Simms finally got in the game, he wrecked his thumb on the helmet of an eagle. But I want to talk about Jared Goff, though, because I was giving so much crap to Jared Goff just the other day. And I was saying that, there was only one quarterback in this league that's a starting quarterback that I would not take over Daniel Jones, and that was Jared Goff, excuse me. But then I looked at his stats. I did not know he completed 67% of his passes for 3,254 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions for an 91.5 rating. Giant fans would scream if Daniel Jones did that. We would have to hear how he is the Messiah.
Absolutely. And actually, we should talk a little bit about Daniel and why we don't think he is, the future of the Giants, where a lot of Giants fans, I think they pretend that he's the future, because I think a lot of Giants fans are holding out for the Bryce Young and the CJ Stroud next year's draft, or what some pundits would say, the best quarterback draft ever.
And you and I have talked about this before with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. What happens if they pull a Tua? What happens if they pull a Spencer Rattler? What happens then? What happens if their stock plummets? And there's already multiple teams with multiple first round draft choices next season. I should say 2023, because we haven't got really technically in the season yet. So I never understood why Giant fans all of a sudden think that we're going to somehow get this guy and get him over all these other guys and then still have him pay off, because of the fact that one of these quarterbacks comes from a big name university that we were just talking about. I know, but there's one I want to talk about. You just mentioned it before we jumped on the mic. You mentioned it, and I actually want you to discuss this, because we talked about, rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins and what he did in Ohio State. And I'm a big Justin Fields fan, and of course we know where Justin comes from. And you have a theory, you have an opinion on quarterbacks that come from not just certain schools, but big name schools.
Big name schools that have top draft classes or prospect classes every year. And I do. And it's Ohio State, Alabama. Probably 1 and 2 almost every year as far as picking prospects or getting the top prospects from high school. And a lot of times these guys, and we saw it with Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, died too young, where he, his negative traits were disguised by the team around him. Let's not pretend that Ohio State doesn't have 5 and 4-star recruits across the offensive line. Let's not pretend that they don't have 5-star wide receivers, and they're pouring them out of late, especially.
Oh God, yes, yeah. I mean, let's not pretend they could beat the Giants 9 out of 10 times.
Absolutely, they've already beaten my Penn State 9 out of 10 times. And let's not pretend that they don't have a solid run game. And Day is a great coach. Urban Meyer, a great coach. Yep. You're talking Nick Saban. I mean, these guys could take Daniel Jones in college, and these teams would still compete for the playoffs, college football playoffs, with Daniel Jones at quarterback. They're masked. A lot of their deficiencies are masked by the team around them, and it's not something where you can just walk at film and say, "Oh, well, yeah, that center is just awesome." So yeah, it just masked it. No, it's these guys aren't seeing pressure. They're not seeing that many competitive games. That's why I like quarterbacks that face adversity in college, where they're not given, the best of the best. And can you elevate the team around them? How much more can you elevate 5-star recruits around you if you're Bryce Young or CJ Stroud? I'm not telling you they're not talented. I'm not telling you they can't become good in the NFL. But I don't put all the stock in them because of where they come from and the team around them.
Now I'm gonna throw you for a loop here. There are giant quarterbacks that have come from small schools, very small schools. Phil Simms, Morehead State. Eli Manning, of course, came from Ole Miss, which is not a perennial powerhouse by any means of the imagination. You also have Jeff Hostetler, who went to West Virginia, and these were all guys that had success and won Super Bowls for this team.
Peyton Manning, Tennessee.
There's one other, but I want to talk about just the Giants. So there's one guy though off that list I forgot. He went to a school called Duke.
We don't want to talk about Duke.
We don't want to talk about. See, we don't want to talk about that. That's the thing. Though, by your theory, he should potentially, hopefully, excel more because he faced adversity. He faced issues. Now, I don't think anyone can question that Daniel Jones has physical attributes.
Absolutely.
I don't think you and I can either question that. But I think the biggest thing is it's what's between the ears. It's the processing of the information, the processing of the plays. So my question is to you though, if you did take Daniel Jones and put him on, let's say, Ohio State, would he have gone 6 or even higher if he was placed into that type of situation? But because, like I said, you can mask deficiencies, but I think you cannot mask deficiencies when they are grounded in the fact that you don't have the physical, or I should say, you don't have the mental mindset or the mental fortitude to process information that you see on the field. Because they always say it's just like from high school to college, the game speeds up. and then it's from college to to the pros, it speeds up even more. And then you reach a point where it slows down enough for you to process it. Could against a better competition than he faced at Duke, even on Ohio State, would have Daniel Jones drafted 6 or even higher in 19?
I absolutely think that would happen.
Oh, really?
I do. I thought he had there's times in college, and the Clemson game, if you go back and watch the Clemson tape, that's what kind of sold me a little bit on Daniel, is the Clemson tape. Because my initial reaction to Daniel being drafted was Dave Brown 2.0.
Yep.
And it turns out it is Dave Brown 2.0, and my initial reaction was right. But I do think you could be a good college quarterback and struggle in the NFL. We see it all the time. 9 times out of 10, that's probably what's going to happen, regardless of who you think's what and what's going where, you know? But to me, that's what it boils down to is, can you take that next step? And the answer to Daniel Jones is he couldn't. But could he go back to college right now if he wanted to and be successful? Absolutely, I think he could. But that's his peak. College is his peak. You know, he's nothing but a backup in the NFL. And, you know, I wish him the best, and I hope he proves both of us wrong.
I hope he proves me wrong, too. I've said that a million times, because if he succeeds, then the team succeeds. But I think the bigger question is, and I've asked this of a lot of people, Giants fans seem to have, some Giant fans, I don't want to put everyone in the same boat, seem to have some type of selective memory when they come with Daniel Jones. They remember the 3 good games in 19. They remember the 1 or 2 good games in 2020, and they remember the 1 good game in 2021 in reference to the Saints. But they don't remember anything else. And then when the season goes away, and and you have the off season, then you start leading into the next season. It's almost like okay, OGR, just look right here a second. Just look right here. Okay, I just neuralized your ass. Okay, they just forgot everything that happened previously. My question is, and it drives me insane, why? How can you forget the number of turnovers? How can you forget everyone outside the New York bubble saying to you, well, I know why. It's a Galaxy Defender. Just don't slap me. But how can they just not remember and think about everything that he couldn't do? And just focus on, like, because that's all I ever hear is, well, when he had everything going here, you look at the Saints game, and then people talk about the Dallas game, how he made Kadarius Toney, and I always have to remind him, no, Kadarius Toney did not take off until Mike Glennon got in the game, and all those catches and all those yards came from Glennon, not Jones. But talk me off the ledge, OGR. How? Why? I know it's belief, but it's been 3 years.
No, it's not belief. It's
okay.
The fear that if Daniel Jones does not maturate into what we think he can, or what Giants fans think he could be, that means rebuild. And even Giants fans now, I don't even understand that they're going through a rebuild. Because when you're this bad for 10 years, that's all you want to do is be good. That's all you want to do is be a playoff team. But if you don't go through the process the right way, you will not achieve your ultimate goal. And that's be a perennial playoff team. And the Giants have not done their due diligence the last 10 years. And we've given a second shot to Eli Manning. And we put all our faith into Daniel Jones because we're so fearful. If he messes up, that means another rebuild. Well, it's coming regardless if you like it or not.
It's already there. It's already there.
And that's what I think a lot of Giants fans hold out hope, because it means that the Giants are going to suck for a little while longer. And I think that's a lot of times. Or you know what? There's nefarious practice, like I said before, where there's a set of Giants fans like, yeah, let Daniel Jones out there, throw him out there, let him do whatever he wants to do. If he proves me wrong, whatever, sign him. But if he doesn't, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young.
Or Archie Manning.
They want him out there because they know they're going to get that bad record that they all crave to go get the guy they want next year's draft.
I didn't want to pop this in immediately, but I have a Giant fan right now who really disagrees with you, and I wanted to pop this person in because they basically summed up, they are the opposite of your thought process about Daniel Jones, and I find this person interesting because they really summed it up. Now, excuse me, so we're going to drop you in for a second. What did you want to say to OGR?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
That's what people will tell you. They find your lack of faith disturbing. And I get that all the time. But the question is, what are we showing faith in? I mean, everyone, when he gained 7 pounds that first offseason, I had to hear about how that made him a better quarterback. When he ran the cone drills last year, that was going to increase his pocket presence. But where is this blind faith? Where is it buried? And I understand what you're saying. They're scared of the rebuild, but I have to feel it's got to be something more deep seated, because of the fact that, like, I have never seen in New York, especially, a guy go 3 years, play as poorly at times as Daniel Jones, and still have maybe 20% of the fan base, if not more, love him and think for some unknown reason he's going to be awesome.
I mean, a lot of Giants fans just sit there and say, well, he hasn't had everything. And that's why we want Malik. That's the reason. Is if you're expecting the temperature to be 72 degrees, the grass to be perfectly at 1 inch across the board, the white lines to be painted perfectly down the 50-yard line, every call is perfect. All the guys are on the field. There's no injuries. Nobody's banged up. No bruises. Saquon's back to the way Saquon was, running wild. Then you'll see the best of Daniel Jones. Well, I just described the perfect situation.
I think you might see the best in me. if all that happened. Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. I can't even walk up the stairs.
But that's what Giants fans, they want everything to be around them because that's their biggest argument. And if it's still out in the ether, I still have a YouTube channel, and I don't want to plug it here, Tim.
You can plug it.
OGR Sports.
There you go.
Go look at it.
You owe me a quarter.
You could still listen to me talk about Daniel Jones, how I've had belief in Daniel Jones until I didn't. Why? Because you know what? I gave him his chance. I gave him 3 years. I give every prospect 3 years. Unless they do something that they probably shouldn't be doing, like the whole Xbox thing and stealing thing. And then I don't give you a chance anymore because the proof is in the pudding. But if you are, a professional, I'm going to give you your 3 years and say, okay, what can you show me in 3 years? Because you can never judge a draft class unless you have 3 years. Right. It's as simple as that.
Well, you know what? I wish it was as simple as that, because I think some people just don't comprehend that sometimes. Because I've said it a million times. Your first year, no one's got any film on you. The second year, the league adjusts and you have to adjust with it. The third year, you should then become the player that you should be. And like I said, Daniel Jones to me just has, a lot of people will point out the Phil Simms situation. And it's not the same. First of all, it's different eras. Simms was leading his team to the playoffs when he got hurt in 81. He played well his rookie season in 79. He played well, but it was injuries that derailed him. He lost 2 years before injuries. And then in 84, he was the first Giant to throw for over 4,000 yards and went 9-7. But he showed progress even between the injuries. And Daniel Jones to me just doesn't show consistent enough progress.
The one thing I'll give him somewhat a reprieve on, because this is the biggest problem I've had with the New York Giants, is when you draft a quarterback, you must stick with his head coach and you must stick with his GM. I truly believe that. Having familiarity when you're learning a system, when you're coming into the league, really helps. And the fact that you just, fired the head coach that believed in him, I think you'd see a slightly different Daniel Jones had a certain someone stayed a little bit longer. Because obviously we know now that it didn't, the man that shall not be spoken didn't have it last year or the year before.
But I got to disagree with that. The Duck, Herbert, had 5 offensive coordinators, 5 different offensive coordinators in 5 years, 3 years in college, 2 years in the pros.
But had the same head coach.
But the head coach does not work with the quarterback daily, does not install the offensive game plan, does not teach
Very
him.
True.
But
Very
he had
true.
5 different coordinators in 5 years. And he went into a situation where the line was that first season, the line was not that great in LA. And he still excelled and exceeded beyond expectation. I was a big Herbert fan. I was always yelling suck for the Duck. So I wanted him so badly.
I did too. That's the quarterback I wanted in college. Absolutely. Coming out, I would wish he would have came out his junior year. Obviously, he wanted to play with his brother, so that's why he didn't come out, unfortunately. But no, But here's the problem I have with that, Tim. A coach decides what system he's going to run.
Right.
And you could, a coach can just sit there and get another guy with the same mold of the offensive coordinator, and you're still going to play relatively the same system, because I don't think it changed too much in college, and even in the pros, they ran a lot of what he did in college to kind of integrate him into their system and make him to what he is today, which is one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in the NFL.
Oh yeah. Now the draft. The draft is coming up. The draft is approaching rapidly. We of course have the 5th and the 7th pick. Right now we don't have the necessary funds to sign our draft class. But we're not gonna talk about that, because I was always told that the cap is a living, breathing thing, that you don't need to worry about the cap because you will be able to find that money, even though we couldn't field 53 men last year a couple times. Or I should say last game. We couldn't field 53 men because we didn't have enough cap space. But don't worry about the cap. We'll be fine.
The Rule of 51.
Rule of 51. We're fine. We are fine. Actually, that's the worst part. Even with the Rule of 51, we're not fine. And that's what kills me about this. Those that do not know, the Rule of 51, what that is basically the top 51 contracts only count against the cap until training camp breaks. And then the other additional contracts, the 2 additional contracts, are then added into the salary cap. Now, what that means is you could have 90 guys on the roster, but only the first 51 contracts count against what you're doing right now. But the problem is we are in such bad cap space. We're over the cap with the Rule of 51. Well, now we're a little bit under now. We're a little bit under now. Okay. I mean, OGR, do you even fathom the Giants trading back either one of those picks or both of those picks?
There's a world where I believe it. And if honestly, not to keep knocking on these fans like I've done the entire podcast, but
I was going to say, who the hell is going to want to listen? They don't want to listen to me now, so now they're going to listen to you.
So Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, a lot of guys want this. Well, if in your mocks, if this is the guys you guys want next year, then why aren't you actively mocking the Giants trading back?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Why aren't you actually mocking it? Because you need the draft capital. Or do you just assume the Giants are going to be so bad this season that they're just going to get the number 1 pick by default?
No, wait, before you go, I want to, because now I really want people to hate us or hate me. What the hell is up with all the freaking mock drafts? Everything. You are called a content creator, not a mock draft maker. How many times can you mock a draft? I've seen people like, this is my 9th mock draft. 9? I haven't done 1 yet. Why? Because I have no clue. Let's get a little I've said it before. Let's get a little closer to the draft. Then we'll do 1. But you come up with different scenarios and be like, well, I'm just going to keep mocking. I'm just keep doing mock drafts. Maybe I'm stupid because I don't want to watch that. I don't want to listen to that. I don't want to see that on social media. I want to do 1 and done.
I get tired after 2, because no matter how far we go in the draft,
I don't think you should talk about your personal life. You get tired after 2. Sorry.
So no matter how much people want to bring into it, like right now the only mocks I see is Aquanu. I see Evan O'Neal. Once in a while I see Devin Lloyd. I see Kayvon Thibodeau, and the sauce. That's it. And it doesn't matter 5 or 7, mix all those prospects. Those are the 5 prospects I see every popular guy put out there. Yep. Maybe Stingley every once in a while. Other than that, those are the 5 guys. How many times can you keep taking them over and over in the same goddamn mock draft, okay? Because I'll tell you right now, when Tim does his mock draft, I guarantee you somebody's taking Aquanu, Neal, Devin Lloyd, Stingley, or whoever, okay?
I won't even bet.
Maybe on Thibodeau.
I'm not even going to bet because I have a feeling that's going to happen. But to you,
I guarantee you it's going to be Aquanu. I guarantee it's going to be Aquanu. That's not who I'm saying we're going to draft.
That's an excellent point, though.
It's going to be Aquanu.
That's an excellent point. And I've said this before about this draft. I think the top 10 players in this draft are going to be the same top 10. They may not go in the same order, but I think the top 10 is pretty, I personally, unless someone does something stupid, I think the top 10 to me is pretty much locked in. The first 10 guys. And I think you could name the first 10 guys. I think they'll go into saying, they may not go 1 through 10 that way. They'll go in a different order. But and that's kind of my point. And we're picking 5 and 7. I mean, at this point in time, how many times could you really? Thank you. How many times could you really mock? Thank you. How many times could you really mock the same shit over and over again, and to the same people? And then all of a sudden,
they continue to watch.
But that's the I don't get. I'm taking crazy pills. I've said it a million times. I don't get it. And I just no.
I could see doing one mock. And then maybe doing another mock where you trade out. That's it. But getting off the mock draft, what did you want to touch on with the draft? What do the Giants fans want to hear out of the draft? Because it's probably not what we have to say. Because I have a feeling people are going to get very mad at us.
Of course they're going to get mad at us. We're so popular.
Absolutely. Howard Stern-esque.
I get that too much. I don't like that comment because I don't like Howard Stern anymore. He's turned liberal. He's turned crazy. He's turned like a nut. He used to be this funny guy, and now he's serious and scared of it. I'm not going to get in Howard Stern. To me, with the Giants draft, I've said this before, and I've said this millions of times. If it's me, I'm going Malik at 5, Devin Lloyd at 7. Because I need a line. If I'm Wink, I need a linebacker. I need an athletic linebacker who can cover, who can play the run, and who can rush the passer. And I need to team him up with Azeez Ojulari. You have to hope that Blake Martinez's leg or knee is healed to some extent. And then you have to have other guys. Because McKinney, the linebacker, is not on the team. Jalen Smith is not on the team. And because people are always like, well, we have all these guys. No, we don't have a lot of linebackers. We don't have as many linebackers as people think. And Tay Crowder, to me, is undersized to play a middle linebacker position. So I need Lloyd and I need my quarterback. But if you have to look at the philosophy of the Giants, I would not be upset if they went Thibodeau at 5 and then Devin Lloyd at 7. Because I've said this before. If you do that, you've fixed your defense. You've fixed your defense. You've created a pass rush. You've got your athletic linebacker. You can have a Dory Jackson as your 1 and then someone on the second side because you can create pop. I've said this a million times. If you have a good secondary, you can have a bad pass rush because it'll cover that up. If you have a great pass rush, deficiencies in the secondary can be covered up as well because you're limiting the amount of time they have to throw the ball. So I would go defense the first 2 picks. And then if you want to take 19 offensive linemen, of course there's not 19 picks, but if you want to take 19 offensive linemen after that and fix your line that way, I'm fine with that. But I have to fix one component of this team, which will help us be competitive.
I agree with that. And
all right, well, then we'll just end the show right there then because he agrees. OGR agrees with that.
I do agree with that. But is there a world where you see the Giants going the opposite? And going maybe 2 offensive players or back-to-back linemen.
I can't see them doing back-to-back linemen. I really can't.
Because I can't either, but crazier things have happened.
If you look at
and how upset would you be?
I would be very upset because you're probably going to go Charles Cross at one of these points in time. If you're going to go
I
back
said 2 offensive players. So let's say we get a Quantum. And then you draft whoever you want to draft after that. I believe it still has to be a defensive player, but let's just say Joe Shane is drunk in the room drafted.
Let's say he pulls a Gettleman. I can't go offense. I can't go offense. I can't go back-to-back linemen. I can't go lineman receiver. I can't go like Drake London. I can't. I have to. You have components on, and I think they're smart enough to know this because Shane, if you follow his track record in Buffalo, was not a big proponent of drafting linemen early.
When they did, they did not work out too well.
Did not work. Thank you. And stole my thunder. Not going to be upset with you, but you stole my thunder. The one time they did, it didn't go so well. So I think he understands that you can find quality linemen later in the draft. And I think he's going to work that philosophy. I'm going to tell you this, and I've said this before a million times. I have no clue where the Giants are going with this draft. I really don't. Usually you'll have a clue, you'll have an idea, you'll have an understanding. This is the first year I would say like maybe in 15 years. I wouldn't be shocked whatever they did, because I have no clue what they're with Gettleman. You always heard about, he was touched by the hand of God. So you knew he was going Barkley. You knew that Ernie Accorsi wanted Eli Manning. Sometimes people telegraph what they want. A couple days leading up to the draft, you heard a team in the top 10 really wanted Daniel Jones. So you kind of knew it was the Giants. You telegraph at times, but I have no clue. I literally have no clue what the Giants are going to do.
Well, this is what I've come to in recent days, and I have nothing to base this off of. I don't have some inside information. But I really do think the Giants are going to go Kayvon Thibodeau at 5. I think the Giants are one of the teams putting out that information that is trying to, come back, because I think that's who they want at 5. I really do.
And they did give him a hard time at the Combine.
Absolutely.
With his line of question. So if you go Thibodeau at 5, who are you going 7?
Who am I going 7? If Ekwonu or Neal are still on the board, which I don't think they will be.
No, I
but
don't
if
think
they
they'll
were,
be there at 7.
I'd take them. One of them. If not, Devin Lloyd. And you fix your defense.
You fixed your defense. Now, my thing is about the tackles.
I know I'll mention one more name, and I know you're not going to be happy with his name, but I don't mind him because of the type of mentality he has on the field. And you're going to hurt me verbally and maybe physically.
No, never.
Nakobe Dean. Mr. Dean.
I can't. I on my draft, you know what? I'm not going to hurt you. Physically, mentally. I'm not going to hurt you because I have Dean number 11 on my board. On my top 51 prospect board, I have Dean out of Georgia, 6'10", 225 pounds. I have him number 11. I just think that Lloyd has more of the skill set that is needed to fit into the Wink defense. I wouldn't at 7. I wouldn't kill the Giants if they took Dean. I wouldn't kill him at 7. If they took him at 5, I'd kill him.
I like Dean. Because I don't like Dean better than Lloyd. I'm just saying maybe the Giants have him higher on the board. I mean, you don't know. That's the thing. Nobody knows. They're not incredibly far. Far from each other.
No.
And I just like the leadership that Dean showed on the field at Georgia.
Yeah.
He was the Georgia defense. Dean went, the Georgia defense went.
I have Lloyd at 6, and I have Dean at 11 on my draft board. And the way I set up my draft board is I set it up in reference to just overall talent per position as well. And then I also base it off positional value. And like I said, this was more created, just working off positional value. That's why, like I said, I'm at Dean at 7. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, if you go like Trevor Penning at 7, then I'd be a little bit more upset, but I can't, I wouldn't fault the Giants for that. I would fault the Giants if they went like Ahmad Gardner at 5 or 7. I would fault the Giants for that because of the fact.
Would you mind Stingley over Gardner?
Stingley came in, of course, at 19 to LSU. Was a big reason why they won the championship that year. Only played 10 games over the last 2 seasons. His measurables evidently are off the charts. It's the injuries. I mean, I can't. If I trade back into the late teens, then I would take. Now I should say this. I could see his team taking Stingley in the top 5. I have Stingley ranked number 4 on my board. So I could see a team taking him, taking that risk. But I just can't take that risk if I'm the Giants.
I agree. I just wanted to get your opinion out there because I just don't believe in Ahmad. He's way too grabby.
Too handsy. He's Eli Apple. I've said it before. To me, he reminds me of Eli Apple. My top 10 is Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Hamilton, Stingley, Neal, Lloyd, Willis, Ickey, Gardner, and then, well, actually, I moved Dean into the top. Actually, I did move Dean into the top 10 because the kid out of Michigan got hurt. So I actually moved him down off the board. This is an old list. But like I said, I still think the top 10 is going to be there. You know what I love? You always have one guy that's draft riser. You always have one guy that seems to plummet. And I want to talk about both of these guys because the guy that seems to be plummeting right now, and I don't know for what reason, and Giant fans were in love with him. At one point wanted to take him at 5, and I said, you cannot take this guy at 5. Is
Mr. Linderbaum.
Is the Linderbaum? First of all, you don't take unless he's Dwight Stevenson, you don't take a center that high. You can't take him at 5 or 7. But I thought
he was Dwight Stevenson. That's why I wanted him early on.
Well, the other problem is I can't take a center who's 6'3", 290 pounds. If the 80s are calling, because this isn't a league now. You're going to be going up against guys that are 6'6", 360 pounds. You're going to go up against a Jordan Davis who can jump 15 feet high and run the mile in 1 second flat. So you're going to be going up against guys like that. But he has serendipitously been falling. And is it just, but there's really, you don't really hear,
measurables are scaring people.
But you don't really hear a rationale with scouts about why he's dropping so much. And I understand some measurables. I understand 100%, but you don't really hear from scouts anything bad about him. But I don't understand. He just seems to be dropping off the planet.
Unless there's some sort of and the only other thing I can think of is either there's something behind the scenes that's scaring to people that we don't know about. And maybe it'll be exposed, the day or two before the draft. And that's, a lot of teams know about it. It's just not getting out into the ether. Or there's maybe some injury we don't know about. Because that's the only thing I can think of. Or they just feel that he's a system guy. That's
what I always felt. I felt that way.
I think he's good in his zone blocking scheme. You're not, if you're just going to be a power scheme, and I think the Giants will be a zone blocking scheme. I could be wrong, but that's just how I feel the Giants are going to run their thing.
Now you have to talk about the guy who is rocketing up the draft charts, who could potentially go number 1 overall over Hayden Hutchinson. That's Trayvon Walker, the defensive edge out of Georgia, 6'5", 270 pounds. This is a guy who jumped exponentially after the combine. He Mike Mamula did. And that's what scares me. That, of course, to me, it's a smokescreen that Jacksonville's considering taking him number 1 overall. But this is another guy who really has not shown it. His college tape has not changed since he left school. It's not gotten better. It's just his measurables, I guess, people fell in love with. But I still have him ranked 32nd on my board, and that might be a little low. But again, this is another guy that. Is it just the measurables that are making him go up so quickly? And people are considering him in the top 10?
Honestly, on him, I can't sit. Oh, great. I just can't.
Well, you don't have to cry about it. You don't have to yell about it. Hi.
It's just, that's the thing.
Can I sing the Wiggles? Toot chugga big red.
Well, they're not gonna hear you.
Oh, yeah, they can't hear you. He has the headphones on. Great, I can't talk to the kids.
But anyways, I don't know if I want you to talk to my kids now.
I know, neither. I wouldn't want them either. I'm surprised they let me have kids.
But me, I don't see it. I don't see it with Walker. There's no reason why I have anything justification. I just don't understand. I just don't see why. I don't.
Now, if you have a guy. Who is your? I have a guy that I like a lot, and he's a guy that I would like to see the Giants either grab either later in the first round or in the second round. And I'm not going to tell you who the guy is yet, but who is your sleeper pick for the Giants within the first? It could be within the first 2 rounds. Who would be your sleeper guy? The guy that you're just kind of he's a sleeper cell guy. He's that sleeper agent that all of a sudden just comes up when you least expect.
For me, it's 2 guys.
Okay,
Ebiketie and Brisker off the same team, Penn State. Those are my 2 guys. Those guys can ball. Ebiketie, to me, was solid throughout the year. I do like him off the edge. If the Giants don't take an edge in the first, maybe we go Kwanu and then Stingley. We do, or not Stingley. Why can't I think of his name? Mr. Devin Lloyd. There we go. Right. Devin Lloyd, and then I could see Ebiketie in the second round. As a pass rusher that I really like. Even Mel Kiper's in love with him for some odd reason.
Oh, God. Well, that's the kiss of death.
And then the other guy is Mr. Brisker. I do believe we need help at safety. I think he can come down, be that guy in the box if you need to. To me, he's an all-around safety. I really liked him in college. I've watched him basically single-handedly beat teams at Penn State. So,
see, I'm kind of leading the same way. I have a man crush on Trent McDuffie, cornerback out of Washington. Yes, I know he's only 5'11". I know he's only 195 pounds. But to me, he's a guy that can play safety. He can play corner. And right now, the safety room is pretty empty. You have Logan Ryan. You have Xavier McKinney and Julian Love going, bye. And that's it. You can use this guy and switch him up in so many different regards and play him in so many different avenues. And I think that's the direction we need to. That's a direction that this team can go into with a guy maybe later into the first round, early into the second.
I mean, he's solid, but to me, I don't like Mr. Love in the safety room. I don't either.
I think
I don't.
People forget
he's incredibly overrated out of Notre Dame.
People forget he got benched last year. He didn't come back until injuries, and then he played in the slot.
Yeah, and I don't like him. I don't like him anywhere. I don't. I sound like Green Egg Hams, you know.
I do not like him, Sam. I do not like Julian Love in the safety. I do not like him in the slot. I do not like him very much at all. I do not like him a lot.
I wish he was cut.
I wish he went to the Joe Judge pizza party because those players seem to be getting cut. No, that's not true. We signed David Sills and we still have Daniel Jones. They went to the Judge pizza party.
But David Sills is the next coming.
He's Victor Cruz 3.0. We all know this. We all know David Sills is going to be. He's been on the team for 3 years, and his stat line reads 1 catch, 1 drop.
Honestly, I was really hoping. I'm rooting for David Sills. I don't care. I mean, I know I'm probably on the minority on that one, but I'm rooting for David Sills. There's something about him. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me wanting Ed McCaffrey. I was about to say he reminds you of a certain one, and I was about to break out the Ed McCaffrey reference myself because I was like, but he has more speed than Easy Ed. And of course, Ed went on to Denver and won a bunch of Super Bowls, and what an asshole he was. Breaks his leg here, then goes to Denver on free agent contract and wins Super Bowls and becomes a great receiver. I'm not talking about Ed McCaffrey right now. If the draft happened today, right now, let's say we are 10 minutes. So we're 10 minutes out from the start of the NFL draft, and you are the general manager of the Giants, and you get a phone call. You get a phone call, and somebody wants to move up into 5 to grab a quarterback, and we'll give you a later first round pick. Let's say it's Pittsburgh, and then maybe a second round pick and like a 6th. Next year in 2023. Do you make that type of move if you are the Shane? I hang up.
You hang up.
I hang up. I mean, tell me, you just hung up on Mike Tomlin. He's a nice guy. I don't care.
Now you sound like me.
I really don't. Like, there's so many we have more holes in Swiss cheese.
Right.
Okay. Unless the Giants are infatuated with Mr. Young and Mr. Stroud in next year's draft, there's literally no reason, none. Why? Unless Shane's going to sit there and admit I can't get us below the cap, then that's the only justification I see for trading back.
You know, it's funny. Even when we get Brandon Bradbury, we're still short. Even if we trade him or release him, we're still short in reference to operational cap space and in the rookie draft class. So I still think if you had to put a percentage on the Giants trading one of the picks, what percentage would you say with the possibility that they would move on from one of these picks?
Right now, the way I'm feeling, 70-30. 70 really? That they'll keep the pick and 30 that they'll trade.
Really? 70-30? Because I have a feeling, I have a thought process that it's 50-50 on that 7th. Because I
would say on the 7th, I'm just going 70-30 on.
Oh, on both. Okay. Because I've looked at the numbers, I've crunched the numbers, I've seen the numbers. I don't know where the money's coming from. Unless you are going to restructure Leonard Williams, unless you're going to restructure Kenny G, unless you're going to restructure Adoree Jackson, I don't see where the financial wherewithal is going to come to not only cover the draft class, but then have the ability to operate during the season.
And yes, Mr. Shane did say you want operational cap space, but
he did steal my phrase. I don't want to say anything. They wouldn't.
Yeah, but I will say this: I would love to hear the smooth sounds of Kenny G if I could. Maybe that's how the Giants are going to woo the NFL. Don't pay attention that we're over.
Now, my question. You know what's funny, and I will get you the smooth sounds of Kenny G. You know what? I think is interesting though, and I think this is something that people overlook. Is the fact that it is operational cap space, which is money you need to move to work during the rest of the season. But why don't the Giants approach Leonard Williams, Adoree Jackson, and then
This town needs an enema.
well, evidently that's not the smooth sounds of Kenny G. That was supposed to be the smooth sounds of Kenny G. I don't know how the hell that one happened, but this town needs an enema.
Our cap space needs an enema.
Our cap space, that is number 11. Why does it say Kenny G number 11?
This town needs an enema.
Well, evidently my soundboard's all screwed up because I don't know why it's playing the wrong track. But why
Coffees for closers?
Coffees for closers. Shelly the Machine Levine, put the coffee down. Do you think I'm fucking with you? Do you? Sorry, that's a great movie.
It is.
How are you going to take this abuse on a sit if you can't take it here? You know what it takes to sell real estate? Brass balls. I just need to find Ricky Roma and get it over with. Sorry.
You know what second place gets, Tim?
Steak knives.
Set of steak knives. You know what third place gets?
You're gone.
You're fired.
Oh, do I have your attention now? My favorite line is that I drove here in a $90,000 BMW. You came here in a Hyundai. I also love when he takes his watch out, puts it on the briefcase, says, that watch is worth more than your car. Great movie. Now you just got me totally off topic. But why, speaking of money, what is the thought process behind, and I actually understand what the thought process, but I want to get your opinion, or what I think their thought process is. You need money. You need cap space. Why not move? And I've said it's the wimpy thing from Popeye. You know, I'm gladly play Tuesday for a hamburger today. You can't keep pushing the money out. But why not just ask one of these three guys to give back some of the money?
I think Joe Schoen is trying to exhaust everything possible. I think before the draft happens, you will see that move. There's no doubt in my mind. You will see that move. But I think Joe Schoen is letting it ride out as long as possible before he has to do that. I don't know why, but I think he's trying to avoid that because that's what GMs of the past have done. And I think he's trying to avoid that like the plague.
Now, do you think they will reach a point where it just has to sit there and he just has to do it? I mean, do you think he's going to fall in love with someone in the draft and just say then, I got to do it?
Maybe his intention is to trade out, Tim. Maybe that is. Maybe he wants to accrue more capital in future years because there is that many holes on this team. Like, it's not something that I want. It's not something maybe that you want. But if he does it, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, my God, Joe Schoen, how could you trade out of the top five? Moron! No, I'm not going to do that.
Are you sure you're not going to do that?
I might shed a slight tear.
I was going to say, are you sure you're not going to get upset if he does that?
But no, I'm not, because I can understand it, especially if you're accruing more second-round picks this year.
Right. And just for you.
Bringing you the smooth sounds of Kenny G. $72 million. Not worth it, as you can plainly see.
I have to have an OGR sound effect. Not sure what it's going to be yet, but there will be an OGR sound effect.
Oh, I already know the OGR sound effect. OGR is going to live in your nightmares.
There's a couple sound effects that I have for you that I actually, and I even said it before. OGR has graciously come on the online Big Blue Sports Show on YouTube. No, I'm going to plug myself shamelessly. And there was a couple spots I even told him at one point, I am writing down the timestamp. And I literally wrote it, and I still have it right here. I wrote down the timestamp for one of your cuts. This has been a pretty good show, I think. I think we've covered quite a number of topics. We've gone a lot of directions with the Giants. We are going to be doing more shows. We're going to do a draft show, hopefully coming up in the near future as well. This show will be hopefully weekly. I would like to see it go bi-weekly, but we have to wait and see because we both have very busy schedules. But it's always fun talking about the Giants, and it's always an interesting dynamic because I one day we'll go over the Online Big Blue OGR relationship from its infancy to where it's accumulated to now. But we're not gonna do that today. We're gonna save that. It's gonna be like a soap opera. It's gonna be like a novella. We're gonna save that. But I do want to save one.
I will say this: it started off like a nor'easter.
It's a good way to put it. and it went out like a southwester. But Mr. OGR, this is the first show. Hopefully people enjoyed it. Hopefully people got a little bit of the banter. If you had to say anything right now to people that may be on the cusp of watching something else or listening to something else, because you're going to be able to listen to this on every place that podcasts are at. You're going to be able to watch it on YouTube. What would you tell people who have not watched the show or maybe on the fringe about watching it or not watching it, why they should or shouldn't watch this show or listen to this podcast?
Listen to this podcast because honestly, the subjects we broached is completely different from all the milquetoast stuff you're going to hear from every other Giants content creator. That's literally what it is. And we're not saying stuff as hot takes. We just have different opinions because we live in reality as Giants fans. We don't sit there and we sugarcoat it like most of the milquetoast Giants fans out there. That will sit there and be like, oh, well, I would trade back. I would go get CJ Stroud. I would go get Bryce Young. Daniel Jones is our guy. No, I'm not. We're not going to sit there. We're telling you honesty, our honest opinion of being Giants fans. For me, well over 25, and for Tim, eternity.
Well, I've always said there's me and there's dirt. That's how old I am. The good news is we probably just pretty much alienated every other content creator and every other podcaster right now on OGR's last segment. But you know what? I don't care. I alienated myself a long time ago. But I have to agree with OGR. I don't think you may get what you don't want to hear. You may not think you need to hear it, and maybe you don't need to hear it, but you are going to get an opinion. And I think that's, if I had to sum up the show and just listening to, just since we've done this for almost the last 45 minutes or so, I think that's the thing. I think you are going to get an opinion. You're not going to get an opinion where it's the Giants are going to do that. The Giants are going to do this unless they do this. You will get a definitive opinion by two people who've watched the team, who enjoy the team. I said this before, you don't need to be a Giant. You don't need to wear giant paraphernalia every time to be a hardcore Giant fan, even though I am wearing a Giant shirt right now. But
I'm not. I'm literally wearing a work shirt right now.
I mean, mine was just out of necessity because I didn't do the laundry. But I do have I have a Willie G skull cap on right now, or a baseball cap on right now because I was riding earlier before it started to rain. But I think, but you look like Lex Luthor. I think that's the greatest thing. And you laugh like him sometimes too. And I never even watched Superman. And then you do the beard thing. I swear all you need is like a big chair, some kind of like two dogs, like Dobermans.
I need more rings. And
you could just pet them. And that's all you need.
What about a skinless cat?
No, I wasn't going to go skinless cat. I wasn't going to go that because I think you are more Lex Luthor than you are Austin Powers' nemesis, Dr. Evil. I think you're more Lex. You give me the Lex vibe. So that's what and where else can you go to hear about Lex Luthor? No place else.
Or find out that coffee is for closers.
Coffee is for closers. And if you want the smooth taste of Black Rifle coffee, go to brcc.com and order some Black Rifle coffee. I'm only throwing it in case they want to sponsor the show. I'm now going to be a shameless shill because coffee is for closers. And you know what, OJ? I think that's the way this show should end every day. Every time. Put down that coffee. It's for closers. I just want to hear what's going on in the background, man. I'm more interested in that.
A whirlwind of running and all over the house.
You know
I
what?
Apologize.
But you don't have to apologize because you know what that's called? That's called life. And then when you have life, you have to deal with it. You have to roll with it. And that's what we're going to deal with. And that's what we're going to do with the Giants. And then again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue Sports and Mr. OGR, bringing you the first episode of 3-12-1, the New York Giants 2020 season. This is Tim signing off, and Mr. OGR.
Have a beautiful night, guys.
Have a beautiful night. Have a beautiful day. And don't forget to watch, listen, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Good night, good day, and good luck.